Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. So, I guess the main talking point from the week mainly was about the European Super League. So, I thought, well, let's go back nearly 20 something years by this stage. I think it's 1992 anyway, when the Premier League became into existence, which in itself was a breakaway. So essentially, what I'm going to just do in this video is basically talk about the origins of the Premier League and how it's better than how not really kind of show how it changed English football really. So I guess to put it into context, the European Super League, what am I on about? The Premier League, sorry, was born, was kind of came out of a time in English football which is not the best. So during the 70s and the 80s, the sport was characterized by chronicle financial mismanagement and a complete lack of commercial awareness. And there was significantly, and this can be demonstrated by the fact that there was significantly limited live TV coverage of the game, and like a lot of the clubs had to rely on income streams and matches. And like you may be asking yourself, well, why wouldn't they have been putting on TV? Well, basically, the footballing authorities in their heads were thinking, well, if no one's gonna, if everyone can just watch it on TV, why would they come to the actual game themselves? And also just to further enhance the terrible image of the league at the time, it was full of old, decaying, and dangerous stadiums, which gave rise to many issues such as hooliganism. And this is often treated with aggression by the authorities. And, this can be seen in the fact that the former Chelsea owner, Ken Bates, even applied to the local council to erect an electric fence in front of one stand. And while this was rejected, it kind of shows like the state of hooliganism at the time. And it can also be kind of demonstrated in the late 80s with the likes of the Heysel disaster, which caused a section of the stadium to collapse, killing 33 Juventus fans and injuring 600. And as a result of that, English clubs were banned from Europe for 5 years and Liverpool for 6. But there are also other disasters that we kind of have to talk about as well. So there was stuff like the Bradford fire in Bradford City Stadium at the time, and literally a stand caught fire essentially, and 56 people died and 265 were injured. And we can't really forget Hillsborough as well, where 96 people died. And the government just simply had to intervene in order to, save English football. So the Taylor report was published, and it recommended that stadiums become all-seaters, and alcohol consumption in view of the pitch was banned. And this prompted, and they basically said that English should move up towards the middle class, according to the FA. And the FA blueprint for football was also published in 1991, which set the tempo for the globalization of English football that was to come. And I guess another factor that we have to consider in the origins of the Premier League was the declining relationship between the Football League and the FA. So mainly it was stuff about fusses over sponsors. I think the fact that sponsors weren't allowed to be put on kits until the mid 80s. And I guess one of the big guys who was involved, who was a big pusher of the Super League, was a guy called David Dean, former Arsenal chairman. And he was a big fan of the American showbiz kind of razzmatazz around certain events. So if we think about America, we think of big shows and big fireworks and massive hype around it, which certainly was not around English football at the time. But David Dean really wanted to implement that into English football, and that's shows how English football has how far English football has come. And in 1988, Everton, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man United met with ITV to sell their rights. But the Football League soon found out and sold their rights for a cut down price to ITV. So obviously they weren't able to make a lot of money, make more money. And the owners eventually then went to the FA with a different proposal, and they rejected the Football League's kind of proposal for their new proposal for football, and they went with the big clubs approach. And essentially, they believed that the breakaway would benefit English football, and from there, they handed over the power to the clubs, and the 20 clubs, came together, and they decided, they just began to decide, they became a completely different, completely different entity, and they set up the Premier League, and from that, the Premier League was born. So yeah, and then it kind of progressed from there, and then you've pretty much got what it is today, which is one of the biggest global sports leagues in the world, with probably hundreds of millions of viewers every single week, and definitely the biggest league in terms of money making anyway. And it certainly has the big six biggest clubs in probably, or some of the biggest clubs in the world. So yeah, that was the whole background behind the Premier League. Hopefully you've gotten a bit of a better understanding of how the Premier League was formed. And if you didn't, there's loads of other videos if you want to go in more depth. Let me think. There's HITC Sport. HITC Sevens actually did a really good video on it, so I'd recommend that you'd go and look at that. And there's a lot of articles out there. So if you want to just polish yourself, learn more, there's loads of resources out there. And just make sure, just for the last couple of weeks of the semester, that you stay tuned to Mars FM. We have a load of really good, exciting shows coming up. Yeah, it'd be the last stretch now until the end of the year. So hopefully everyone will be listening in, and the show should be good. So yeah, hopefully everyone has a good weekend, a good week and a good weekend. And I'll see you all next week for another semi-interesting footballing topic. But that's it for now, everyone. I'll see you in a bit. Goodbye.